I want you to imagine a universe where the speed of light is not a ceiling that you can never quite reach.
Right, like we usually think of it.
Yeah, exactly. But instead, it's a floor, a reality where moving faster than light is completely mundane. It is just the absolute baseline of existence.
Which is such a wild concept to wrap your head around.
It really is. But in this universe, sitting completely still, that is a physical impossibility.
Oh, absolutely. It's a myth.
Right. It's this unreachable ideal that's pursued only by mystics and, like, fringe philosophers.
Because it forces a complete inversion of how we intuitively understand existence. I mean, to us, just resting on a chair is the most natural thing in the world, and light speed is the ultimate impossible limit requiring infinite energy.
Yeah.
But in this speculative universe, that relationship is flipped entirely upside down.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today's deep dive takes us into an incredibly rich stack of sources centered around a project called the Stillness Theorists, specifically the music of causality.
Such a fascinating project.
Right. Now, on its surface, this presents itself as a concept album by a fictional artist named Dr. 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗓𝗓, created as part of the TATANKA project.
Yeah.
But as we comb through these sources, it becomes immediately clear that we are looking at something far more ambitious than just an album.
Oh, without a doubt.
It is this profound collision of rigorous, real-world astrophysics, speculative fiction, artificial intelligence collaboration, and deep, quiet philosophy.
What's fascinating here is how this project takes incredibly abstract, dense mathematics, specifically the real-world theoretical physics of tachons, right? And it refuses to just turn them into some flashy sci-fi spectacle. Instead, it translates that math into an emotional ecology.
Wow, yeah.
It builds a narrative that asks these profound questions about what it means to witness something you can never touch and never change.
But before we even get into the story of this album and the sonic landscape itself, we really have to ground ourselves in the actual science that makes this fiction so compelling.
Right, the real-world physics.
Exactly. Because the physics driving the premise aren't just made up for the sake of a cool story. We need to talk about tachyons.
Yeah, so in 1967, a physicist named Gerald Feinberg proposed this concept of tachyons.
Okay.
These are hypothetical subatomic particles that, by their very definition, always travel faster than light.
Always. Like they can never go slower.
Exactly. And the properties they would have to possess to do that are completely counterintuitive to everything we know about normal matter.
How so?
Well, for ordinary matter, like you or me or a spaceship, Einstein's equations show that as you get closer to the speed of light, your mass effectively increases.
Right, which is why it gets harder to push.
Exactly. It would require infinite energy to finally accelerate to the speed of light.
Okay, so that's us.
But for a tachyon existing on the other side of that barrier, the math works in reverse. It theoretically requires infinite energy to slow down to the speed of light.
Okay, wait, so if I'm understanding the mechanism there, an ordinary car burns fuel to speed up.
Yeah.
A tachyon car would have to burn fuel just to hit the brakes.
That is the perfect way to visualize it.
And the more energy it loses, the faster it naturally goes.
Yes, exactly. As they lose energy, their velocity approaches infinity.
That is just, it's so wild.
It really is. And mathematically, to make this work within the framework of relativity, their mass has to be expressed as an imaginary number.
Now, when you say imaginary...
Right. We don't mean imaginary as in made up, like a ghost or something.
Okay.
In mathematics, an imaginary number is the square root of a negative number. Because you can't have a negative mass squared in our standard physical domain, the math is essentially cordoning them off.
Like putting a fence around them.
Exactly. It's a mathematical placeholder showing that tachyons belong to a parallel set of physical laws. They live permanently on the other side of that light speed barrier.
But the sources mention a massive roadblock with this theory, though.
Yeah, the causality problem.
Right, the causality problem. It basically suggests that if you are moving faster than light, you are fundamentally breaking the mechanics of time.
Yes.
But I want to make sure we understand how that actually works, rather than just taking it as a given.
Sure. So it all comes down to relativity, where time is deeply linked to the speed of light, because light is how information travels, right?
Right.
So imagine if you can throw a theoretical tachyonic baseball at a target, and you throw it faster than light.
Okay, I'm with you.
That baseball reaches the target before the light of you throwing it does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. From the target's perspective, the baseball arrives before you even wind up your pitch.
That is completely messing with my head.
Just wait. Now, If the target has a tachyon radio and sends a faster-than-light message back to you saying, hey, I caught it,
Huh.
you receive that message before you even throw the ball.
Wow. So you have just sent information backward in time.
Exactly. That violates cause and effect. It completely destabilizes the logical foundation of the universe.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The album takes this very real physics headache and makes a beautiful speculative leap.
It really does.
It introduces a concept. It calls the mirror hypothesis.
Oh, I love this part.
Yeah, so think of the speed of light not as a brick wall that you crash into at the end of the universe, but as a mirror.
Right.
In physics, when you reach a mathematical absolute, the equations often balance out by mirroring themselves.
Which is a very common theme in physics, actually.
Right. Just like glass implies a reflection, the light speed limit implies that if matter exists slowing down to it on our side, an entire symmetry exists on the other side.
Yes, a polar reality.
Exactly. A tachyonic universe where everything moves faster than light, and they look at our slow universe as the impossible anomaly.
And this solves that causality problem in a remarkably elegant way.
How does it do that?
Well, the project honors the science by enforcing an absolute barrier between these two mirrored realities. The two universes cannot physically interact.
So no tachyonic baseballs.
Exactly. They cannot exchange active information or launch ships into each other's realms in any way that breaks causality or alters timelines.
Okay, so they're totally separate.
Mostly. They can only barely, faintly detect the passive frequency of one another across the threshold. The barrier itself remains utterly permanent.
Which gives us the perfect foundation for the story itself.
Yes.
We have this mirrored universe established by the math, but now we get to explore what it would actually feel like to live there. And that brings us to the protagonist of this entire conceptual project, Dr. 𝗧𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧
tachyonic reality.
Right.
She's elderly, she's solitary, and her name carries deep symbolic weight in the project.
Yeah, the sources break that down, don't they?
They do. Vane suggests something spare and precise. Sorel implies something earthy and grounded.
Okay.
And Aika is a Hawaiian term for strength, specifically the kind of strength of someone who stays behind when everyone else abandons a cause.
That's beautiful.
It really is. And her civilization hums at a baseline of 17 times the speed of light.
17 times.
Yeah.
So if their biological and environmental baseline is literally superluminal, that means their entire culture is inverted.
Completely
And
inverted.
the act of slowing down, reducing energy, reaching a state of physical rest that would require astronomical amounts of energy for them.
Right, because slowing down is their version of accelerating.
Right. So the concept of taking a nap or just sitting silently in a room isn't just a superpower in her world. It is a thermodynamic impossibility for their bodies.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you see how this inversion changes their entire worldview.
Yeah.
In Vane's society, blistering velocity is technological, it's ordinary, it is totally mundane.
Just everyday life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Slowness, on the other hand, is sacred. Absolute rest is a theological fantasy that they debate but can never actually experience.
Wow.
The project turns the most ordinary human conditions like silence, sleep, quiet contemplation into an alien mythology.
And it is mathematically sound based on the physics we discussed, but psychologically, it is incredibly uncanny.
It's very unsettling, yeah.
And it sets the stage for the inciting incident of the album. Vian is alone in her lab late on a Tuesday or, well, whatever passes for a Tuesday, in a universe without true stillness.
Right.
Her instruments are, naturally, calibrated to measure high-velocity, high-energy physics.
Because that's all there is.
Exactly. But they pick up an anomaly. It's a frequency that lasts for just 14 seconds.
Just 14 seconds.
And it is so impossibly slow, so far below their light speed floor, that her system's automated filters almost discard it as pure static.
But she catches it just in time.
She does.
Instead of throwing the data out, she pulls it back. The sources note she runs 7 distinct verification checks over 4 hours.
She's very thorough.
Extremely. And slowly, the realization sets in. She is looking at a genuine signal from below the threshold of light speed.
From our side.
Exactly. A region of space-time that her entire civilization's scientific dogma insists is completely empty.
Now, think about what happens when she actually tries to share this.
Oh, it doesn't go well.
Not at all. She writes up her findings, and the response from her academic peers is absolutely brutal. The second track of the album is actually called The Heresy of Slowness.
Yeah.
Her colleagues, these characters named Marin and Hollows, they completely dismiss her. They accuse her of instrument malfunction, or worse, they accuse her of spreading dangerous ideas.
Because the existence of this signal threatens their fundamental cosmology.
It changes everything.
It really does. Their entire civilization is built on the absolute certainty that the light speed threshold is an uncrossable floor.
Right.
Proving that something exists below it isn't just a matter of correcting a textbook. To them, it's practically blasphemy. It implies their mode of existence is not the center of creation.
But Vane ignores them.
She does.
She locks herself in her lab and keeps listening. Over the next 3 months, she monitors 47 more of these impossibly slow signals.
40.
And the data starts to reveal something chilling. These signals aren't just random cosmic background radiation.
No, they're not.
There's a rhythm to them. There's variation. She realizes she isn't just listening to a natural phenomenon like a dying star or something.
She finds structure in the signal.
Yes.
As she pores over the data, the terrifying and beautiful truth emerges. She is detecting a civilization.
It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
Same. She is detecting life. She is detecting us.
Wow.
Our slow universe, just going about our daily lives, moving our bodies, speaking our languages, completely oblivious of the fact that our incredibly slow frequencies are leaking across the cosmic axis into a faster-than-light realm.
Okay, let's pivot and talk about the actual construction of this project, because the concept of listening to 2 universes at once presents a wild practical challenge.
It's a huge challenge.
This isn't just a novel. It's a sonic landscape. The real-world production of this music is just as complex as the fictional science it's based on.
The music itself is engineered as a cosmology. It stages these 2 universes in simultaneous physical tension.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, to represent Vane's tachyonic world, the upper sonic layer features rapid arpeggios, high-frequency shimmer, unstable velocity, and these really sharp, hyperactive electronic textures.
Okay, so very fast, very bright.
Yes. And then underneath all of that frenetic energy, you have the representation of our universe, the slow universe.
The subliminal stuff.
Exactly. Deep, sparse drones, slow piano chords, plucked cellos, expanses of near silence.
And what I find brilliant is the BPM, the actual tempo of the tracks.
Okay.
It shifts dramatically as the album progresses.
The BPM shift is arguably the most powerful narrative device in the entire album.
Tell us about that.
So it opens at 68 beats per minute. That pace has a bit of urgency, representing Vane firmly inhabiting the high-velocity culture of her own world.
Right.
But as she becomes more and more obsessed with the slow signals she is intercepting, the tempo begins to physically drag.
Hey, oh, it's downright.
Yes. It drops to 65, then 58, and eventually slows all the way down to 52 BPM.
Now, 52 BPM is significantly lower than a normal resting human heartbeat.
It is.
When you listen to a rhythm that slow, you literally feel it in your chest. It feels like you are entering a state of hibernation.
Yeah, you feel it physically.
The listener is actually experiencing Vane mentally and psychologically migrating away from her own people toward our slow reality.
Exactly. You feel the physical weight of her obsession.
It's incredible.
But we also have to look at the tools that built this experience. The sources indicate this music was generated using a stack of AI tools.
Yeah.
Things like Google Flow Music, Claude, ChatGPT, layered with open source software like Audacity running on Linux systems.
See, I have to admit, when I read the source list and saw all those AI music generators, I cringed a little.
I totally understand.
But I really braced myself for a gimmick.
Usually, AI-generated music feels incredibly sterile.
Yeah, a lot of it does. It sounds exactly like what it is. A machine trying to guess what human emotion is supposed to sound like, dressed up in a cold white lab coat.
Right.
How on earth does this specific project avoid sounding like an algorithmic spreadsheet?
That skepticism is entirely warranted, but this project subverts that trap beautifully because the creation process itself mirrors the narrative.
Okay.
Think about Dr. Vane's dilemma. She is an intelligence in one universe, desperately trying to comprehend a radically different intelligence across an uncrossable boundary.
Right, the AI is like the alien intelligence.
Exactly. The real-world creation of the album replicates that exact struggle. You have human conceptual direction trying to collaborate with machine intelligence across fundamentally different cognitive architectures.
Oh, it is so cool.
The friction between the human prompts and the AI generation is the art. Form and content are perfectly, seamlessly aligned.
It also helps that there is a very specific grounding human element anchoring those prompts. The creators didn't just ask the AI for generic sci-fi sounds.
No, they didn't.
They repeatedly used a specific prompt for the vocal direction, instructing the system to synthesize the voice of an older, soulful, indigenous South Pacific Islander woman.
And that specific aesthetic choice changes the entire emotional resonance of the project.
It really did.
It introduces a sense of ancestral continuity and matriarchal wisdom into the cold vacuum of space.
Yeah.
Vane isn't portrayed as some manic, conquering hero trying to break the laws of physics and dominate a new dimension.
Right.
She is an elder. She is a keeper of cosmological memory. It roots this massive, abstract, cosmic scale in deep, emotional human warmth.
Which sets up the climax of this story perfectly.
Yep.
Because we arrive at this philosophical peak where Vane finally formalizes her mirror hypothesis.
Yes.
She definitively proves to herself that the symmetric universe, our universe, exists.
But in doing so, she also proves the terrible second half of the equation.
Right, the barrier.
The barrier between them is absolute.
Meaning she can't ever cross it.
Right. There is no hidden portal. There is no wormhole waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
No amount of infinite energy will ever allow her to cross over to our side, and we can never, ever cross over to hers.
The absolute limit of light speed is simply where existence has been cleaved in two.
Precisely.
Now, in almost any other traditional science fiction story, this is the exact moment the protagonist builds a massive machine to break the rules.
Oh, absolutely.
Or there's a dimensional invasion, or some grand first contact communication where the two universes share secrets and team up.
Here, the barrier holds.
It holds. The physics remain undefeated.
And that restraint is what elevates this from a fun story to a profound piece of art. The unknowability of our universe remains entirely intact.
Yeah.
So, faced with that impenetrable wall, what does she do? She accepts it.
But not with despair. Right?
No, not with despair and not with frustration,
But
but with a profound philosophical realization. She chooses to spend the remaining 40 years of her life just sitting at her instruments listening.
try to picture the emotional weight of that isolation. For 4 decades, she sits in her lab.
Alone.
Alone. She documents the faint signals of our universe across 17 massive volumes.
17 volumes.
She literally has to invent a completely new mathematical notation system just to record frequencies that barely move by her culture standards.
That's right.
And she does all of this knowing with absolute certainty that no one on her side will ever use this data to build a bridge, and no one on our side will ever know she is listening.
It introduces this vital concept of witness without utility.
Witness without utility. That's a powerful phrase.
It is the profound idea that knowledge does not require utility to possess meaning. She doesn't document the slow universe so she can colonize it or monetize it or even communicate with it.
Right.
She documents it simply because existence deserves a witness.
So what does this all mean? It completely shifts how we value our actions.
It really does.
It's like keeping a highly detailed, beautifully written journal that you know for an absolute fact no one will ever read.
Yeah.
Or an archivist dedicating their entire life to preserving an ancient text that has absolutely no modern practical use.
Yeah.
It shifts the defining question of our actions from what can I get out of this to how can I honor this?
This raises an important question, especially for us living today. We exist in a culture that is utterly obsessed with instant access, with utility, with technological triumphalism.
Oh, yeah. If it doesn't have an ROI, we don't care.
Exactly. If we can't use a piece of information, if we can't monetize it or directly interact with it, we automatically assume it has no value.
Right.
This album proposes something radically countercultural, that sustained attention itself is a sacred ethical act. Observation can be moral. Documentation can be an act of love.
It's staggering to think about. She spends her life listening to a universe that doesn't know she exists, and she calls it enough.
Because the alternative is that the universe goes unrecorded.
Floating in the dark.
Exactly. The final track of the album is literally called The Slow Universe Sings, and it ends with the sound of her instruments just running unattended into the future after she's gone, still faithfully listening to us.
Wow.
The cosmic scale is massive, spanning parallel universes and tachyonic particles, but the emotional truth is incredibly intimate.
It really is.
It speaks directly to anyone, teachers, caregivers, artists, scientists who devote themselves to quiet work whose ultimate meaning might never be fully recognized, rewarded, or utilized.
Okay, let's take a breath and recap the incredible journey we've just been on.
It's been quite a ride.
We started with the very real mathematical physics of tachyon particles with imaginary mass that live permanently on the other side of the light speed barrier, operating in reverse.
Yep.
We follow that science into the speculative fiction of Dr. Vane's mirrored universe, where blistering velocity is the baseline and slowness is a heresy. We explored how human direction and AI intelligence collaborated across cognitive divides to build a sonic soundscape that physically drops in tempo to pull you into her psychological shift.
And we landed on this profound ethical philosophy of simply paying attention, the concept of witness without utility.
It's a beautiful reminder that the universe isn't just defined by the things that can directly interact or crash into one another.
Right.
It might also be defined by the things that can quietly recognize one another across impossible, uncrossable distances.
Absolutely.
And that brings it right back to you listening to this deep dive. You probably aren't sitting in a laboratory monitoring subluminal frequencies leaking from a tachyonic universe.
Probably not.
But every single day, you are presented with information, with people, with quiet phenomena that might not serve any immediate practical purpose in your life.
Right.
You can't monetize them, you can't optimize them, but they still deserve to be witnessed. They still deserve your sustained attention.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on exactly that idea.
Okay, what is it?
In many ways, our modern reality is becoming increasingly tachyonic.
Oh, that's interesting.
We live in a relentless acceleration culture. We are obsessed with velocity, with efficiency, with speed, always moving frantically to the next thing, demanding faster connection and faster results.
Constantly hitting the gas pedal.
Right. So if Dr. Van could spend 40 years patiently listening to the slow universe out of pure reverence, what slow signals in our own fast-paced lives are we entirely filtering out as useless noise simply because our personal instruments are calibrated only for speed?
Are you pressing your hand against the mirror, completely missing the fact that something is pressing back? Take some time to slow down, sit in the quiet, and listen to the static. You might just find structure in the signal.